Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight for our virtual version of Back to School Night for middle school. Just a few little reminders. First, we are recording tonight's event. So if you do have to leave early or you're speaking with a friend who wasn't able to attend, we are videotaping this evening. I also want to draw your attention to the bottom of your screen. There is a Q&A feature. And if you have any questions at all, please pop a question into that Q&A feature. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can this evening. And any questions that we're not able to get to tonight or we don't feel we're able to answer thoroughly enough, one of us on this presentation tonight will reach out to you to make sure that we answer it completely. Okay, great. I think we are going to start tonight with a little poll just to get a sense of who's here with us tonight. So if you could please let us know if your student is in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, or in some cases, we have families who are here from multiple grades. You could let us know. And that would be great. And Jen, do we have some results in?
The results are still coming in, but it looks like the 6th grade, we've got about 42% of our parents here with 6th graders, about 31% 7th, 26% 8th, and we've got some folks who are in multiple grades.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. So we can go to the next slide, Carol. Thank you. So I just want to start off by saying welcome. My name is Allison West. I am the division head of the middle school. I am also fortunate enough to teach an 8th grade focus area this year. And I also am teaching health and wellness for all 3 grades. So I have a chance to see just about everybody. And after a short welcome and overview from me, you will have a chance to hear from members of our academic leadership team, including our team leaders. Our goal tonight is to share an overview of the middle school experience to really illustrate the progression of what happens from 6th through 8th grade. So you'll hear about some essential pieces of the middle school puzzle, followed by a presentation from our department heads outlining that progression of skills and strategies. Next. As I mentioned, we have our academic leadership team here tonight. So all of these folks will be introducing themselves and speaking, including our grade level team leaders. And to kick off tonight, next slide, please. I wanted to take a moment to read aloud our revised mission statement, simply as a reminder that everything we do is guided by this commitment. Our statement reads, Carroll School empowers children with language-based learning differences, such as dyslexia, to become academically skilled students who are strong self-advocates and lifelong learners. Carroll is an inclusive community committed to embracing diverse strengths, identities, and lived experiences in order to give each child what they most need to thrive. Now, this first sentence for me really captures the essence of our student population. We serve one type of learner. It just so happens that in our middle school, we have 239 versions of that learner, which is why the second statement is so essential, because it truly captures the heart and soul of how we ensure that all 239 of your children are in a position to thrive. Everything we do, all of the decisions that we make are processed through the lens of this mission statement. And hopefully you will leave tonight with some clear examples of how we do that. Now, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge, you're right, you can go next, Carol. If I did not acknowledge that we are currently teaching and learning during a pandemic. And I want to share that as a community and as a middle school academic leadership team, we are constantly asking ourselves, how do we help students recover while also staying on track with academic growth? We are keenly aware of all of the buckets of unfinished learning that all students have experienced since March 13th, 2020, which just so happens to be 570 days ago, but who's counting? And as you can see on the left-hand side, I've noted some of those buckets of unfinished learning, and we are all keenly aware of that. As a school community, we have worked to align our priorities in an effort to help students regain stamina and capacity for doing school, strengthen their social emotional skills, and make meaningful academic progress. Luckily, our Orton-Gillingham principles, which serve as our core, they are our foundation, they are more essential than ever before because they remind us to use visuals and be as multisensory as possible. So even though we have to wear masks, we are engaging all of the senses to make sure we're moving from concrete to abstract, that we are embracing a diagnostic and prescriptive approach and providing our students with all of the opportunities for repetition and spiraling back that we know that they need. And these principles will help guide us as we work to fill these buckets of unfinished learning and also continue to move forward at the same time. We have all learned, families and the educators, a lot in this last year and a half about how to maintain the health and safety of our community. And really our top priority remains being in person as many days as possible. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Kwame Kabla, who will begin to introduce some of the key elements we plan to talk through tonight and to begin showcasing how we are going to learn through a pandemic in all of these important ways. Thank you, Kwame.
Hello, everyone. As Allison mentioned, my name is Kwame Kabla, and I'm the middle school dean of students. And so if we could actually just go to the next slide. So in the middle school, we have various elements, as Allison said, or puzzle pieces that are foundational to the overall experience and growth of our students. And so in just a second, you are going to hear some examples of how these puzzle pieces fit together and how they fit into your child's day-to-day life and how your child engages with all of these different puzzle pieces or elements that we as in the Carroll School feel are vital to your child's academic, social, emotional, and personal growth as they move throughout the school. And so we'll start by hearing from Becca Hitchcock, who in just a second will talk about one of these puzzle pieces. Thank you, Becca.
Next slide, please. Thanks, Kwame. I'm Becca Hitchcock, and I'm the 8th grade team leader. And I actually have more of an overview slide than one that actually speaks to one of the puzzle pieces. In the middle school, our goal is to help students become active and independent learners. So as they move from 6th to 8th grade, an increasing amount of responsibility for learning shifts from teacher to student, and you can see a model of this on the slide. To accomplish this shift, instruction is initially direct and explicit with plenty of modeling from the teacher. Students then move through carefully scaffolded activities with guided practice. In these, they share the responsibility for learning with the teacher. Next, they move into more collaborative learning until they're ultimately ready to apply skills and approach unfamiliar material independently. Obviously, this is a continuum and does not happen at the same rate for every student. Our philosophy is to move as quickly as we can, but as slowly as we need to for each child. The goal, again, is to help students develop independence and confidence in themselves, both as people and as learners. On the next slide, Mike Copacino will share an example of how this principle applies to our core values.
Hi, I'm Mike Copacino. I'm a history teacher and the 6th grade leader. And the core values of the Carroll School are abbreviated with the acronym HAWKS for honesty, accountability, work ethic, kindness, and safety. And next slide. And just as everything we do at Carroll, we work through a structure every year so that students learn a progression of our value system and are able to work with more and more independence throughout the year. So in 6th grade, students tend to learn the basic tenets of honesty, accountability, work ethic, kindness, and safety. They get periodically presented with Hawk Spotted, which is a way to recognize the good deeds that they do. This continues into 7th grade when students continue to uphold Hawks through Hawk Spotted. In addition, students have the opportunity to submit an application for what's called the CORE Award, which acknowledges that students are conscientious, organized, respectful, and engaged, not only in their classes, but within the wider Carroll community. In 6th and 7th grade, students will also be partnering together with students from the other grade in a small Hawk's Nest, in which a group of 4 to 6 students will work together to build community, provide mentorship, and complete challenges together. Finally, in 8th grade, students who consistently demonstrate the Hawk's values can apply to become a Hawk. This is a privilege that allows for some independence and choice in terms of study halls or other less structured times. Another 8th grade tradition is the medallion, a special coin that was given to Carroll by a visiting member of the military. The medallion is passed from student to student as a way to encourage students to recognize Hawk-like behaviors. And I will hand it over to Emma Creedon, who will take the next slide.
Great, thank you, Mike. I'm Emma Creedon, and I am the 7th grade team leader as well as a member of the ELA department. And I'm going to be talking to you tonight about foundations for brave conversations. So when we think about building a strong foundation for student success, the key pieces of trust, empathy, understanding, communication, support, shared language, and knowledge must exist. And Foundations for Brave Conversations takes place within the supportive advisory structure and connects to all of these elements by creating an atmosphere where students are comfortable talking about challenging topics, provide
Seems we had a little bit of a frozen moment, so I'm sorry. Emma, are you back?
So sorry. Am I back on now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will jump back in. I'll go into the progression for the different grades. So in 6th grade, students begin with identity and then learn about assumptions and biases. Students explore how assumptions and biases lead to misunderstandings and develop strategies to repair relationships when damage is caused. In 7th grade, we build off the work done in 6th grade by focusing on misconceptions and stereotypes, and we go into how those can lead us to form in-groups and out-groups, which are the basis of multiple forms of discrimination. And then 8th grade reviews various aspects of identity and how they impact the way we may see ourselves and others. Conversations continue with topics like race, ethnicity, and culture, and later expand into topics around prejudice and bias, gender, and LGBTQ plus identities. So I'm now going to hand it back to Kwame Kabla, and he who will talk about the metacognitive piece of the puzzle.
Hello again. So in the middle school, we have some specific systems in place that flow throughout the middle school experience. And then there are some that are more specific to each grade, all of which are designed to help support the child's metacognitive growth. So building awareness, of their thought processes, helping them manage and understand some of the challenges that they may have. And so really it's all about building strategies and skills so that they can be successful students throughout their Carroll experience. And so the ones that run through the middle school from 6th grade all the way to 8th grade, the first being MAP, so make a plan. And really this is a collaborative effort where an advisor and a teacher will work with the student to help manage any academic challenges that they may have. We have MAP logs so that students can check their MAP logs to see if they missed an assignment or if they have a late assignment. And really it does give them an opportunity to build accountability and to collaborate with their advisor or their teacher so that they can literally make a plan so that they can be successful. We also have NCLU, which happens at the end of every day. And the goal really is to help students manage the transition from school to home so that when they do get home, they are not stressed out about their work, so that they can preview it at school so that they know exactly what they need to do once they get home. And advisors will always work with students on task initiation, homework completion, catching up on overdue assignments, goal setting, and also just using that time to discuss any challenges that the student may be having. We also have restorative problem solving meetings. And this is a meeting that happens between the student and a teacher or an advisor. And, in the middle school, students, are trying to figure out how to be the best student, how to socialize properly. Mike spoke about some of the Hawks, the core values, so honesty, accountability, work ethic, kindness, and safety. The restorative problem solving meetings really are a way for teachers to help students align themselves and adhere to these core values. And then we have more grade specific systems in place. So in the 6th grade, for example, we have tool time where students learn basic skills around personal organization, self-advocacy, and skills like binder organization and emotional regulation are taught explicitly. So students really have this little bag of tools that they can carry along with them that they're taught in 6th grade, and hopefully these start to build as they move along to 7th grade. And in 7th grade, there's a high focus on self-advocacy and reflection, where we provide and promote opportunities for students to take ownership of their work and for them to communicate with their teachers effectively and their classmates effectively. And then as you move into the 8th grade, students are still directly taught all of these skills, or the skills that are needed, but the goal is for them to really consolidate what they've learned in 6th and 7th grade and apply these skills independently so that by the end of the year, they are prepared for high school and life beyond Carroll so that they can leave feeling confident and ready for their new academic chapter. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Allison Harmon, who's going to talk about the whole child.
Thank you, Kwame. Hi, everybody. My name is Allison Harmon, and I'm the counseling director at Carroll. And I'm going to talk very briefly about components that reflect our whole child approach to learning. So we understand that our students have many dimensions of who they are beyond their wonderful brains and learning profiles. They have social and emotional, familial, cultural parts of themselves, and they bring all those parts every day when they walk through our doors. And so we really want to support and affirm all parts of that child when we're thinking about education and school community. So the first component that I wanted to mention is responsive classroom. And this is an evidence-based nationwide approach to education that blends academic and social emotional learning. Some aspects of the program inform how we structure our day, such as starting the morning every day in advisory with your advisor and a small group. Other aspects of responsive classroom include strategies for communication and how we talk to students. as well as strategies for responding to particular misbehaviors or problematic behaviors, how we collaborate with students around problem solving, as Kwame mentioned, and also how we make academics engaging and use interactive learning structures so that kids are learning not only the content, but also developing skills such as listening and collaborating and negotiating as they're learning the different content areas. So the next program that I wanted to mention is our health and wellness curriculum. Allison mentioned she was on our health and wellness team. We're lucky that we have a cross section of counselors and teachers and administrators who are able to teach this. And our health and wellness program, kids will meet in small groups. Well, they will have lessons throughout the year. At the beginning of the year, all students have similar lessons that are focused on understanding bullying and harassment, on community building, digital citizenship, and how we work towards being an inclusive community. And then each grade will have a grade-specific unit at some time over the year, and those units are on this slide here. So 6th grade focuses on self-regulation and self-care skills. 7th grade focuses on managing stress and understanding anxiety, and 8th grade focuses on decision-making. And included in that is some drug and alcohol awareness counseling. In addition to health and wellness program, we have a great counseling department that we are very fortunate to have a counselor dedicated to each grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We are available to meet with kids for check-ins as needed or sometimes regularly scheduled where we're working on specific skills and strategies. We're available to push into classrooms to support teachers and collaborate around activities. And we're really just sort of present in the milieu. We talk with kids all the time just around, improving their social connections. And lastly, we are really fortunate to have wonderful professional development. We've had great speakers on a range of topics, and we also have internal capacity building. We have an entire course called the Whole Child course where teachers learn sort of more deeply some of the things that I've been mentioning tonight. So if anyone is curious about that, that was a very brief snippet, but please feel free to reach out if you would like a deeper dive on any of these topics. So with that, I will pass it on to my colleague, Alyssa Benway.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. It's great to see you all, or have you see us, I suppose. So I'm the assistant middle school head of the middle school, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about our schedule that your student or your child will have for the week. I think we're on the next slide after this. There we go. So hopefully you've seen your child's schedule. This is what a sample schedule would look like for the week. All of our classes meet 9 out of the 10 days, and we have a rotating Monday through Thursday schedule with an AM Friday and a PM Friday, where they would have half of their classes on an AM Friday and the other half on the PM. And as you see, after lunch, we have Flex, and Flex Monday through Thursday for the year is either a TCI, health and wellness, as Allison just said, foundations for brave conversations, and different community building activities. And then you see, we also have clubs that meet every other week, and students will have an opportunity to join a club that might, be a great way to see other students and other friends that they have in other grades and teams, and just to do some other exciting activities that they wouldn't get to do normally, or jump into something in the makerspace. And then as you see, the day begins and ends with their advisor in their homeroom and morning meeting, and then NCLU in the afternoon to get organized and have that touchdown with their homeroom and their advisor. And then the next part that you'll hear about is from Stephanie Crement with the different parts of the curriculum that we have. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Alyssa, and good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Crement. I am the co-department head of the English, Language Arts, and Humanities Department. I also teach a 6th grade English class and a 6th grade language focus area. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So we know that the skills of reading and writing are incredibly complex, and within these umbrella terms of reading and writing, there are actually many, many component skills that make us thoughtful, analytical readers and efficient, effective writers. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So this image, I think, illustrates really well what we're talking about when we talk about how many component skills go into reading. It compares skilled reading to a rope. So each of these strands represents a separate skill that when combined with others creates a strong proficient reader. And when any one strand is not acquired with fluency, it weakens the strength of the whole rope. So we are explicitly in our English language arts classes and really throughout the day, teaching our kids to be increasingly automatic with word recognition, being able to decode and actually say the words on the page, and then increasingly strategic with their comprehension skills and understanding what they're reading. And that combined with this piece of executive functioning really helps us to develop our students into skilled readers. The last point I want to make on this slide is that we're teaching all of these component skills concurrently, not in isolation in our English language arts classrooms. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. So we are busy. We have a lot of skills here that we teach in the English classes. We will have other opportunities during the year to talk about all of these component skills. I just want to highlight the top one because really the Orton-Gillingham concepts are our foundation. We embed those concepts throughout all of our lessons, and that means our instruction is direct, explicit, multisensory, sequential, diagnostic, and prescriptive, which means that our teachers are constantly looking at what students are doing and producing and diagnosing where they are to prescribe a course of action, even within a single lesson. We know that this kind of explicit instruction, practice, and repetition really does change the brain. So we're focused on that instruction through all these component areas in our English language arts classrooms. And with that, I'm going to pass along to my colleague, Esteban Juarez, who will talk about some of the curriculum work we're doing as well as writing.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. I'm Esteban Juarez. I'm the co-head of the ELA Humanities Department, along with Stephanie. And I also teach 8th grade ELA and history. And I'm very excited to be with all of you tonight. Before I speak about our writing program, I wanted to quickly go over some exciting developments in the ELA Humanities Department. First, as Allison West has already mentioned, we are committed to presenting and celebrating multiple perspectives and voices at Carroll. With this goal in mind, we're excited to introduce new texts that offer a myriad of perspectives and life experiences, including African American, Native American, Latinx, women, LGBTQ+, and disability voices. We're also exploring opportunities for more interdisciplinary work. One example is aligning our ELA texts with the history curriculum so that, for instance, if a class is reading about the Holocaust, they are also learning about the Holocaust in their history class. Lastly, we are working on creating a more consistent set of skills and strategies that are horizontally and vertically aligned. For instance, if we're using a specific graphic organizer for outlining, we want to make sure that that same graphic organizer is used in other classes where outlining is taking place. We're very excited to work on these goals this year and stay tuned for more developments. Next slide, please. Just as we spoke of a reading rope to describe all of the skills involved in reading, we can also refer to a writing rope. And there are two main strands to this rope: composition and transcription. Composition includes crafting complex sentences, ordering ideas, vocabulary use, etc. And transcription involves those secretarial skills like punctuation and spelling. As in the reading rope, executive functioning plays a key role in tying these two strands together. Next slide, thank you. At Carroll, we teach the POWER writing process, which stands for planning, organizing, writing, evaluating, and revising. And this process really provides students with a step-by-step plan for their writing. We also utilize multiple graphic organizers to teach and scaffold the basic structure of paragraphs, 3-paragraph essays, and multi-paragraph essays. Another effective tool that we use is the CER model, which stands for Claim, Evidence, and Reasoning. That teaches our students to make arguable claims, to find specific evidence within the text, and to explicitly explain how this evidence supports their claims. And on the right side, you can see some of the examples of our graphic organizers. As with everything we teach at Carroll, we teach writing through an explicit, direct, and multisensory approach. Next slide, please. This is a general overview of the scope and sequence of our writing program. I won't go into each detail now, that would take me the whole night, but just wanted to highlight one key part of our sequence that gives you an idea of how our program is vertically aligned. And you can see the highlighted part from 6th, 7th, and 8th. By the end of 6th grade, students should be able to compose paragraphs, which includes writing topic sentences and concluding sentences. By the end of 7th grade, students should be able to compose 3-paragraph essays, which includes intro and conclusion paragraphs and thesis statements. And lastly, by the end of 8th grade, building on all of those previous skills learned, students should be able to write multiple paragraph essays. Next slide, thank you. As always, we are working on building a strong foundation and moving as fast as we can, as slowly as we must, to really help our students become great readers and writers. I will now pass to my colleague, Alyssa Benway, to talk more about history.
Hello again. I'm going to give you a short synopsis of the history department curriculum. And as you can see here, there's a quote from Facing History and Ourselves. And this is a great quote that we use to help frame our teaching and be strategic in guiding students to ask questions and be critical thinkers. Go ahead to the next slide. All right, so here are the goals of the history department that help us design lessons and activities. And you can see, there are many different goals for all the different classes and during the year, but I wanted just to talk about comprehension strategies, for example. And that these are some of the things that are very purposefully taught through specific lessons so that students are skilled at reading informational text and applying their knowledge. And then you can see more about the progression of the different skills and sample text, as well as writing samples at the end of the presentation. You can go to the next one. Here is a little bit of an overview, a very brief overview for each grade. And your child probably showed you, and if not, they can show you a little bit of the overview from their teacher. And we definitely suggest that you check in with them and ask from time to time what they're working on. And of course, involve them in any current events and discussions that you can have about things that are happening in our country and around the world. All right, next slide. And then here, this is just a quick little snippet for you to see some of the different kinds of activities that students do in history classes to present their knowledge, to present their demonstration, and to really involve their informational understanding in different ways. They might be making movies, creating slides, writing, several short or longer essays, and doing some things to be able to verbalize their understanding through debate, and getting involved in group discussions and collaborative work. And it's been a really exciting time to work with your students on all of these history developing skills. So it's a lot of work, but it's very exciting and we have a lot of fun. So definitely please ask your child about what's going on. All right, now you can hear a little bit about math from Jen McAleer.
Hello, my name is Jen McAleer. I'm the middle school math department head. I also teach 8th grade math. So next slide, please. Just generally, I wanted to give you an overview about our mission. So our objective as a department is to go as quickly as we can, but as slow as we need to. So one of the main things I really want to focus on with you guys tonight as I go through this very long list of curriculum is that we are going to meet your students where they are and fill in the gaps as we need. And we do follow the Common Core as we do so. So our goal is to support student understanding, which is a very important word. We're not just about getting answers. We want to make sure that the student understands what they're doing, how to apply it, and to apply it across a bunch of different contexts. And we also want to promote rigor within our curriculum. Next slide, please. Just here, we have an overview of all the courses that we have offered. So generally speaking, in 6th grade, you're going to see foundations or fundamentals, and we're going to see kind of what that covers. And then intro to pre-algebra is kind of our extended curriculum. It's like fundamentals plus. So the foundations covers any holds from prior grades. and implements into sixth grade content. An intro to pre-algebra extends a little beyond and focuses mainly on sixth grade. And you can see that progression through seventh grade. Again, students don't stay in that track. They can go wherever they can go based on how well they perform in that year. Next slide, please. I did see a question just come through. The slides will be shared. There's way too much here on this page. You're not going to memorize it. I don't anticipate that you will write it down. In terms of curriculum as a whole, through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we use illustrative mathematics. It is based on the Common Core standards. And of course, because there is no one curriculum that fits all of our children, we supplement these by the various curriculums listed below. Next slide. We have a lot to cover. And so I have listed out all of the big topics, and these are the big topics, and we often cover even more than that. But what you really can see here is that each year builds upon itself. And if you hit the next slide, things that are covered from year to year aren't the same topics. They're covered more in depth, and we extend into that next year about what is covered. So if you could actually go back so people can read that. What the yellow implies is that's that extension curriculum. It's things that we don't necessarily get into that year, but if we're ready to dive in, we will do so. And I just wanted to address another thing that I saw pop up in terms of where we are now, in terms of how we do math versus last year. Last year, we did a lot on the computer. We were kind of pigeonholed into that. This year, it's more of a balance of what's done on the computer and what is done by hand. So in math, you're going to see a lot of handwriting in the classroom. You're going to see kids up on the whiteboards doing problems. We want all of that multisensory. Writing it out on the computer can be a little difficult for some people. Typing your thinking on a computer is extremely difficult. But for some of our students, we have a really hard time getting our thinking and the process onto a piece of paper. So that screen recording and or voice recording is really imperative. So we use as many things as we need to. So what I really want to drive home here is this is generally what we cover, and we extend as far as we can, and we pull back to where we need to in any given class for any given child. So now I'm going to move on, and you can hear from Megan Saunders.
Thanks, Jen. My name is Megan Saunders, and I am the Science Department Head, and I will be talking about our middle school science program. Next slide, please. This slide shares our philosophy and goals as a science department. At Carroll, we know that doing science is crucial for developing students' critical thinking skills. After all, we are preparing our students for a world where the tools they are going to use in problems they will be solving are ones that don't even exist yet. Students are given opportunities to learn skills and material through hands-on inquiry-based activities that relate to real-world examples and experiences. They are provided with chances to explore, experiment, and make mistakes, retest, design, and discover through STEAM activities. We want students to understand that science is all around them and part of their daily lives. We strive to make learning hands-on because, again, learning best happens when students are doing science, getting messy, asking a lot of questions about their surroundings and about phenomena that we present to them, and doing experiments that make their discoveries meaningful to them. Next slide, please. Here are the skills that students develop in their science classes, and we focus on having students increase their independence and understanding of these skills as they progress from 6th to 8th grade. And of course, as other departments have mentioned, our goal is to go as quickly as we can and as slow as we need. I'm not going to read through all of these in the interest of time, but you will be receiving this in PDF form, so this will serve as a reference. Next slide, please. Here we have our curriculum by each grade level, which follows the Massachusetts state frameworks and the next generation science standards. It's through this curriculum that we teach the skills that were mentioned on the previous slide. In 6th grade, we focus on Earth systems, 7th grade physical science, 8th grade life science. And the image to the right is the unifying symbol that we use in all classes to connect the different grade level curriculum. We don't want students to see these topics as being isolated and want them to understand how it all connects to each other. Next slide, please. This slide gives some examples of how the work in science classes progresses from 6th to 8th grade. You will see that there's that gradual release of responsibility from the teacher, where the student is given less and less support as they're ready to gain independence on their work, such as their note-taking skills. We also support the writing curriculum that goes on in their other classes as students use the similar CER format responses, claim, evidence, and reasoning, as they write paragraphs that share their understanding of the topics and complete their lab reports. You will also see that students gain more independence during the design and creation process as we offer more freedom in their exploration and creation, giving students the opportunity to investigate their own questions about a topic or problem. We are also excited to be able to use our Arts and Innovation Center this year, where students are able to use additional tools and technology to create products in our makerspace. Next slide, please. I wanted to end with this quote that I feel really connects science learning and discovery with our theme of perspective taking. Discovery consists of seeing what everybody has seen and thinking what nobody has thought. So thank you, and I will now pass it over to my colleague, Joanne Nimmo.
Thank you, Megan. Good evening. I'm Joanne Nimmo, head of the Middle School Tutoring Department. Focus area courses in the middle school offer the opportunity to identify a student's area of great need and provide a double dose of instruction. Courses fall into 3 categories: language, math, and a combination. Focus area placements are determined by recommendations from the student's teaching team, assessment data, and work samples. Next slide, please. In language, structured Orton-Gillingham focus area classes target the foundational reading and spelling skills that are strands in the reading rope that Stephanie described earlier. The OG curriculum also includes instruction on morphology, which is the study of the smallest units of meaning in the English language, such as prefixes, suffixes, and Latin roots. And the study of morphology promotes growth in vocabulary, comprehension, and oral reading fluency. As students demonstrate increasing independent application of their reading and spelling strategies and an upward trajectory in their oral reading fluency, the focus of instruction shifts. Language offerings include the courses that are listed on the right-hand side of this slide. Next slide, please. In math, focus area classes target specific needs such as fact or procedural fluency, reinforcement of concepts, problem solving, and word problem strategies. Focus area teachers work very closely with math teachers throughout the year. Now I'd like to turn this over to Mike Kometz.
Thank you, Joanne. Good evening. My name is Mike Kometz. I'm the Middle School Maltese
Mike, it seems we can't hear you. I will.
Chattel, and her focus is on improvisation and always creating something wonderful. The other part of performing arts is the music program, and that teacher is Adam Brooks. And his focus is on listening and discussions with rhythm and with rhythm exercises. They make a lot of music down there. It always sounds so nice. Oh, you couldn't hear me for the first 20 seconds. Sorry. I'm Mike Kometz. I'm the middle multi-team leader and athletic director. So we're moving on down to now. We're going to move on.
All right, I think we've lost Mike for a moment, so I will step in to note
Is he
that,
still-
oh, Mike, are you back?
I'm still here.
Okay, so could you say a little bit, we couldn't hear you when you were describing music, and that was one question in particular we had posed. So if you could share a little bit again about if you could start back at performing arts.
All right, so let's start with drama. Is Shay Chattel is our teacher. Her focus is on improvisation, and they always create something wonderful down there. Next in the performing arts department is music. Adam Brooks is the teacher there. Their focus is on listening to music and discussions, and they work with rhythm exercises. And that's followed by studio arts with Diane Francis. And her focus is on develop students' confidence in their creative expressions. She uses many different mediums for students to achieve this goal of hers. The next is Makers, sometimes known as Fab Lab. The teacher there is Josh Mulready. This year, Makers is part of the Maltese rotation for some grades right now. And it's also offered before school at lunchtime, and soon will be part of the extended day program. So if a child likes Makers, there's plenty of opportunities for them to make things. Next is Bounders. Bounders the teacher is Dave Johnson. Dave works on energetic and non-competitive activities. Students down there in Bounders Woods develop self-confidence and problem solving. And then finally, physical education is taught by myself and Alyssa DiPaolo, where our focus is on a traditional PE program in both team and individual sports, games, and activities. Now, and then lastly, the extended day program and athletics also comes out of from me. And so if a child likes any of these activities, they're going to get a chance to do these in extended day at some part throughout the year. So the child rotates through 7 activities throughout the year. Each of the areas lasts about 5 weeks or so. And that's the Maltese program. And I'm going to turn it back over to Allison West.
Big thank you to our academic leadership team for giving that overview. I hope that all of our families on tonight were able to see the progression of 6th through 8th grade in our middle school. We do have time for some questions, so I am going to ask some of our academic leaders here to dive in. One question that has come in is about how are we going to fill these buckets of unfinished learning? For example, last year's 6th grade students did not experience the full breadth of tool time. So Emma, if you're able, could you talk a little bit about how you and Mike Copacino, the 6th grade team leader, have talked about how to build that into the 7th grade experience?
Absolutely. So, Mike and I are going to be coordinating and collaborating around kind of the big items that 6th graders didn't maybe get as much exposure to in 6th grade tool time, but already in our 7th grade morning meeting, we've redesigned how we are what our focuses for each day of the week are, like Mindful Mondays. And then on Tuesdays, we have Toolbox Tuesdays. So every Monday for the entire year, we'll be reintroducing and spiraling back on a lot of the tools that they either only got a part of or missed in 6th grade, as well as adding in and incorporating the ones that we would normally be kind of growing into in 7th grade. We also have specific flex blocks where we can take deeper dives into the tools as well. So we're really trying to make sure that students see everything. And then certain advisories will also, based on the student's needs in that advisory, do deeper dives as well into things like Night at a Glance, or how to use the homework planner effectively, things like that.
And for the sixth graders who are coming in and also being at a deficit in skills like that, we're going to work to make sure that those things get up to speed this year and will also be reinforced in seventh grade next year.
Great, thank you. And I do think that is an important piece for me to note here, which is tonight you saw in general the progression of a middle school child's experience. But as you heard from multiple department heads, we go as quickly as we can and as slowly as we need to. And we are committed to meeting students where they're at. And because we are able to have such a diagnostic and prescriptive approach, and because we're sort of obsessed with collecting that data and using that to inform instruction, we are able to be really strategic about how we fill those buckets of unfinished learning. Another question that came in, Becca Hitchcock, I'm going to ask you to expand on this. A question has come in to hear a little bit more about when an 8th grade student applies to become a Hawk, what type of privileges are available to them?
Sure. So I can speak a little bit about the Hawks program, and I will preface this by saying that because school has been a little bit different for the last 2 years, we actually haven't had the Hawks program for the last couple of years. So we reserve the right to maybe make some changes this year as need be, or if we wanted to amend it a bit. But the way that it has generally worked in the past is that in the second half of the year, usually around March or so, we open up the Hawks program for 8th graders to be able to apply to become a Hawk. So in order to do that, they need to write a letter explaining how they meet the criteria of being a Hawk, all the honesty, accountability, et cetera, that are parts of that, and then why they want to be a Hawk, what would they use the time for, et cetera. The privileges that they then would receive if they are approved, and they would need to be approved by all of their academic teachers, the privileges they would get in the past have included being able to have a little bit of freedom around campus, within obviously still being pretty structured. So an example would be when we have study hall time right now, they are required to be in their homeroom or meeting with another teacher. If they're a Hawk, they have a special bracelet that they get that indicates they're a Hawk, so they can show that to anyone on campus. So everybody knows that they have the right to be somewhere else. And during study halls, they would have the chance to go into the learning commons or go sit outside. They can go out with, if they have another friend who's a Hawk, they could sit outside and work on their work there rather than being inside in their study hall, in their homeroom. So really it's recognizing that these are students who demonstrated that they are upholding all of these core values and they're trustworthy enough for us to say, yeah, you can go, we know that you'll be in one of the designated spots and you'll be doing what you need to do. There's also been, aside from study hall, previously they had a little bit more freedom during lunch and I believe before school. But there are designated areas where they're allowed to go to. It doesn't mean that if you're a Hawk, you can just roam all over campus and, do what you want whenever you want. There's restrictions with it, but it's just to give them a little chance of having more independence as a reward for really demonstrating and showing us that they've internalized all of those values.
Thank you, Becca. There have been a couple questions about whether or not the 8th grade is going to be able to enjoy their New York trip. And I just want to throw out there that we don't have an answer to that just yet. But if you are a family member of an 8th grader listening in tonight, we know that that is on your mind. We know that that is on the students' minds. And, I went on the last 8th grade trip. It certainly is on my mind. And we will keep you posted as we understand whether or not that's a possibility. Okay, let's see here. Mike Kometz, could you please share a little bit more? We've had a few questions asking for a little bit more information on how families can learn more about having students participate in the makerspace. And before Mike answers that, what I will say is, we are thrilled that the makerspace is open this year. And in addition to the opportunities that Coach Kometz is going to describe, teachers are also able to bring classes into the makerspace to do projects. And so that is one way that students will gain access to the makerspace this year. But Coach, if you could just talk a little bit about when it's open and available to students and how parents will know when to sign up for after school when that becomes available.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you for that question. So the makerspace down in the Learning Commons is a brand new space, opened up just a couple of years ago. Students can sign up. They could go through their homeroom teacher and they could sign up for morning makerspace. So when they arrive at school at 7:45 till 8:15, they could go down to the makerspace and you sign up with your teacher.
Oh, looks like we lost audio again from Mike. He may come back on, but I believe what he was about to say is there are opportunities for students to go to the makerspace before school. So as students come in
through their homeroom teacher at lunchtime. So then it's the same process for the lunchtime. And then in the extended day,
let me see if I can read his mind. Mike was about to say that there will be opportunities during extended day coming soon where that will be an option for students to sign up for who are choosing to participate in after school.
So they'll get a lot more makerspace available there as well.
Mike, your audio.
I'm looking at my computer. I see it keep blinking at me.
But I did try to read your mind and fill things in. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mike Copacino, there are a couple questions wanting to hear a little bit more detail around the sixth grade tool time. And if you could maybe give a few examples of the types of skills and the tools that students are applying for, that would be great. Thank you.
So tool time is a chance for kids to work on their metaphorical toolbox of student skills. And it includes things like teaching kids how to use a binder effectively, how to use their homework planner to plan their evenings, and how to keep things organized on their digital devices. We have designated times throughout the year, throughout the week called tool time, where they plan, where they get to sit down and talk with their advisors about which ones of these they want to be working on. And there will eventually be rolling out a system where students can apply for various skills individually with the ultimate goal of completing your 7-tool toolbox. Every tool that kids get is something that's celebrated by the whole sixth grade community, and they get small trinkets of appreciation. So that is tool time. Thanks,
Mike. We have time for maybe one or two more questions, and there's one here, Allison Hartman, I'm wondering if you could expand on. There's a question here around building social connections, this idea that so many of our students sort of lost out on some of the social activities and rally points that are traditional in some of our other grades. And so what are we doing, or where are the opportunities to build on some of those social connections this year?
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah, and I will say that many of our students seem to be experiencing both this joy of being able to sort of reconnect across the grade and in more flexible ways than we could last year when we were in smaller pods. And also, I think, having sometimes tricky moments as they're renegotiating relationships that have changed or shifted and now they have access to again. So a lot of kids are benefiting from that kind of support around navigating that landscape. But the exciting thing is this year, many of the things that we've done in the past, we're able to do again. So for example, our student mentor club is running again. So 8th graders currently have been able to sign up through Friday clubs to be mentors, and they are helping with other clubs that are running who have younger students that they can come and help run those clubs. We were also talking about being able to offer lunch activities and host lunches to students across the middle school For 7th graders in the past, in the spring, we have done something where we have gone down to the lower school and connected with 5th graders in the lower school. And then when those 5th graders come up to the middle school as 6th graders and those 7th graders or 8th graders, they have some friendly faces to welcome them to the middle school. And so that we are planning to run. So that'll be an opportunity for 7th graders in the spring to do. And many of the lunches sort of now a time that we can also sort of think about flexibly. So whether kids are wanting to connect with other students in their grade or even across grade, where counselors and other teachers were able to make that happen.
Great. Thanks, Al. I want to be mindful of the time, and you have been so wonderful to stay on with us for an hour or just over an hour. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. As we wrap up, I want to assure you that if you did submit a question tonight and we haven't been able to answer it with complete detail or even at all, we are keeping track of the questions, and one of us on here tonight will reach out to you personally to have a conversation or answer that question. And of course, if you have additional questions, you can reach out to us at any time. We do have our first team-based parent conference coming up at the end of this month. And so if you haven't already had an opportunity to sign up for a time, please do reach out to Donna Brown, who is scheduling conferences, or reach out to your advisor, your student's advisor, who can put you in touch. That will be a really great opportunity to hear about what the teaching team has learned about your child and the goals that they're setting over the course of the year. And as you know, at any time, if you want to have a conversation about progress or goal setting, we are always here and waiting and ready to have that conversation with you. So we are going to wrap things up for this evening. Again, thank you so very much. We will share these slides via PDF. And again, if we have not been able to answer your question, one of us will be in touch to do so. So have a great evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we will see you all at drop off tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.